from O2 Relief Company. He's the president and executive partner. And he's down in the Irvine area, and he's been kind enough to be here twice to see you guys. Today we're going to talk about traveling and getting around with oxygen, which is very possible but takes a little legwork. So Mike, come on up and speak to our group.
So I said I would take the mic, and I promised he'll never have the mic again. That's how he got that. Well, I appreciate being here last time. How many were here last time when we were here? So a few of you.
All right.
All right, and anybody travel with oxygen but prior to this? Lots of people. All right, so you can help me a little bit with this. This is casual. Ask questions as I speak. I'm here to help you. As Jackie mentioned, I'm the executive partner of O2 Relief. We've been in business about 4 years. We're the only showroom where you can come and see all the different devices in one place. And we're in Irvine, right off the 405. So traveling is a little different when you have oxygen. And I'm going to go over just the key elements that you have to use when you're thinking about traveling with oxygen. And the first thing, I'm going to ask that
you can spacebar.
Nope. Okay. My assistant. So the first thing is plan ahead. Now, my wife plans about 1 day ahead. So I'm in trouble already. But I put up here 8 weeks if possible. And the other thing that I picked up at one of the other events, and I do this probably once a week, is make a list. Make a written list. Make it and make a copy of it. Put one in your bag and carry one with you. And why do I say that? Because I've had many occasions where someone's called me and they're in Paris, they're in New York, and they say, help. And I go, what? I forgot my plug. So they used that unit all the way on the plane, got off and realized that they had no way to charge it up. What do you do? So, of course we can FedEx it to you the next day, but that's not going to help you. So make a list and check it everywhere you go. So when you leave from hotel to hotel, or if you're on a ship and a cruise, check every time. Every time when you leave that hotel, you've got all the different elements that you need to support your needs. The other thing is, if you need tanks, or you're going to need a continuous tank in a hotel or where you want to go, call them and make arrangements and make sure that they say they understand what you need. And then you're going to see in a minute, I'm going to say call again. Call the cruise line and the airlines. Every airline, by the way, is different. Every single one. I had a gentleman today, just before I left, he's with Delta. Well, Delta has plugs inside their airplane. So you can plug that in, take the battery out. These units, you can take the battery out, they're lithium, and you can use that with the plug. You can't use it with the charge to charge the battery in addition to just plugging it up. It's overload. But most people don't realize some of the airlines will allow you to do that. You want to ask them. Why? Because that preserves the battery. Okay? FAA guidelines, 1.5 times the flight and waiting time to fly. 8-hour flight, you need 12 hours. Flying to Europe, 15 to 20. Now, most of these batteries will go anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, so you can figure that out. That's a lot of luggage. Yes, ma'am.
So you can plug the concentrator into when you're on the plane, you're on the seat.
So the question is,
without a battery.
All right, so here's the thing. Some airlines allow it, some have plugs. I know when I carry my laptop, I can plug it in and I can use my laptop on the plane. It's exactly the same power supply as in a computer. But if you have the battery on, it's drawing power to recharge the battery in addition to running the unit. You've got to take the battery out, put it to the side, and then plug it up. And then you should be okay on certain airlines. You need to ask though.
Because
Yeah, I was gonna
because the
say-
amperage
The
overloads.
amperage overloads it, yeah.
That was the question, that was the
Yeah.
second part of my question.
Yeah.
Is that for all concentrators, like the Sequel?
That's for
Eclipse
all
or
concentrators.
little?
That's for any concentrator out there. They all use lithium batteries. Okay? So it's any of them. All right? Question in the back. You're still not here? Okay. So, yes, sir.
Quiet.
I just wanted to ask you very
What does
simple
it say that
question.
even Delta, you have to check what plane you're taking, if you don't know how.
Right.
Let's continue on.
Okay.
I'm upping the volume.
Okay.
There's a question back here.
Hold that question.
Okay. Just repeat it for us.
You asked me? I just wanted to know in checking in, talking about the airlines, is there any special problem with the equipment?
Okay, so the question is, when you're checking into the airline, are there any special things that you need to do? Is that your question?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to cover it, but yes, there is. So when you're going to fly or use a cruise line, you need to contact them. Some of them have a form that you need to fill out and then send to your physician. Your physician will finish the filling out and then fax it into to the airline. When you go to check in, 50-50. Some of these agents will say, show me how you use this. Show me how to take the battery out and make sure you know how to use it. Demonstrate to me that you know how to use your device. A lot of airlines, American's a good example. Some of the agents go, oh, we've seen 100 of these, I'd just like CPAPs, go ahead and go in. But you need to be prepared to do that. And in our facility, when people rent, we train how to do that before they leave the office. Yes, ma'am?
My question was, what did you say about how it's on the airline?
Sure. What did I say about power on the airlines? Some airlines, most all of them now, have a plug that you can plug like your computer in. All right? Some of them will allow you to plug in your oxygen concentrator. In order to use that, you need to take the lithium battery out of the system because it draws too much amperage with the system operating and charging that battery. Not all airlines will do it. Some will.
So it's up to us to take that battery out.
That's right. It's up to you to take that battery out. Okay? That's why many of the airlines won't do it. Some will, though. So you need to ask. You need to ask. That's all I was saying.
There's a question back here.
Okay, go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
No, wait, her, right here.
I have a quick question. You said take the battery out.
Uh-huh.
This machine here,
Uh-huh.
if I take this battery out,
Right.
this machine still works?
Okay, question is, if I take that battery out, does it still work? And the answer is that Energen G3 will work without the battery when you plug it into an outlet. Yes,
Only
ma'am.
if it's plugged in.
Only if it's plugged in. It won't work with it not being plugged into it.
Okay, so now, you plug it in here,
Uh-huh.
and in the airplane, there's a plug like a normal.
There's a normal outlet plug just like you use at home. Okay?
Maybe.
A lot of the newer planes have it. They also have
Newer
USB
planes.
plugs for phones so you can charge your phone and everything. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make a comment that you can't count on that
Correct.
because all of the plugs do not work on the plane. But you might find that your neighbor in front of you or behind you will let you plug in.
So the point being, the FAA requires you to have 1.5 times the battery. Period. You cannot count on that, the plug working. And you cannot count on them letting you use that plug even if it does work. All right? I'm just making you aware of it so that you're aware of it to ask when you contact your airline. This is new. This is new even since I came the last time. So this is brand new. This is not something that 6 months ago you could even talk about. All right? So again, I say call them again. If you're gonna get tanks delivered, make sure you call them and call them and call them and call them. Okay? In our offices, we call you 3 times, but make sure you're coming in, because I set it aside and wait for you to come in. I take a deposit and that's it. So I make sure you know you have a unit from us ready to go. But many of these companies, those of you who have oxygen from home, at home, know many times the companies, you never see them again, and they all have filters in those home concentrators that should be replaced once a year. 90% of them never get replaced. So, yes, sir.
I've always had to get a doctor's note on that, but lately I went to Alaskan, and they just have a list of what's allowed.
Yes.
The G4 wasn't, but a G3 was.
Okay, so he asked me a question. His airline was Alaska. He said the G4 was not listed on there. Not to my knowledge, it is. They just probably didn't realize. I got a list from American, I'll show you here in a second. But most every concentrator on the back, anything we deliver, and almost all of them are made in the U.S., are FAA and FDA approved, 100%, including the G4.
I wonder if it was a liter instead of 5 liter or 3 liter.
No, it was approved. It was approved. That was a mistake on their part. It was approved. So note this thing I've just highlighted. When you have a unit that you're going to pick up from anywhere to use on your trip, you need to get it 3 days in advance. Why do I say that? Make sure that you take it home and you use it at home and make sure it works. The worst thing you can do is come in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you have a flight at 7 and go home and try to turn it on. It doesn't work. Okay? These are all easy tips, but you're not thinking about it when you're packing and you're making a list and all these things are going on. Make darn sure you get it 3 days beforehand and you run it, because if it doesn't work, you want to take it back and get one that does. All right, next slide. Call them again. I cannot overemphasize how you have to communicate with these companies to make sure that you're getting what you expect. You don't want to land at a hotel and say, I'm expecting to have continuous oxygen in my room. Did they deliver? And they go, no. Now what? So you want to call them and call them and call them. Yes, sir?
Does the airline provide oxygen in case of emergency?
Okay, can someone repeat
Does
that?
the airline provide oxygen in case of an emergency?
Does an airline provide oxygen in case of emergency?
Land on the floor.
I would say that varies. They definitely have it on board. That's an FAA requirement. They'll tell you no, but yes, they have it. Okay? Now remember one thing, and this was covered the last time I was here. When a plane takes off, it doesn't compressurize their cabin until 8,000 feet, and then it goes on up to 30 or 35,000. So you're just like you're being on a mountain at 8,000 feet when you're in an airplane. If I have a pulse ox myself, and I run about 96, 97, when we take off and climb to 8,000, guess what happens? My oxygen drops down to 90. It absolutely does. I can't control it. I can suck as much air as I want. It's just going to happen. So if you need oxygen, think what happens to you without it. You've got to have it. And just be aware that that's the bottom line. All planes except the Boeing 777, they can pressurize at 7,000 feet. Everything else, 8,000.
Quiet back there.
If you're going to use E-tanks, make sure you carry a regulator and the little key. That's the kind of thing you can forget, and if you don't have it on your list, and you get somewhere, you have a heck of a time trying to turn that without a key. Okay? Next slide. So don't skip. And I emphasize this, if you're out at a tour, and often I have a lady with me who's had a lung transplant, who's been to 16 countries. And she uses a G3. She's been all over the world. I'll show you pictures of her. Her transplant was at UCLA also. And she swears it's the easiest thing in the world to travel. But, another tip, carry your prescription with you. Always have another copy. And I say, the way I travel, I make a copy of my passport and I hide it and put it somewhere I have it. In case I lose my passport, I have a copy to prove that who I am. You lose your passport. I had a friend in Italy going to Milan to get on a plane. His wife said, "Where's the passport?" She goes, "Well, I thought you had it." He goes, "No, I don't have it." She goes, "Well, I don't have it." They had to turn around and go back to the hotel, and sure enough, it was still in their lockbox that they put in the room. They forgot it. Okay? Otherwise, they were going to have to go to the embassy and get it. And that takes time. Pace yourself when you're out. Keep an eye on your oxygen.
Sorry. Come on, guys, let's be respectful to our guest speaker.
Mike, keep the mic real close.
All right, all I'm saying is don't skip. Make sure you use a pulse oximeter when you're out and keep an eye on your oxygen so that you can adjust your oxygen system that you're using to the needs of you have. And just take your time. No rush, no rush. Next slide. Supply and demand, we just mentioned that. And again, I say enjoy, but just supply and demand. Be aware of what you're doing and keep an eye on your oxygen. It's very easy to be out and about and then your body knows and you look down and you drop below 88. And you don't want to do that. So next slide. Here's the requirements for American Airlines. I pulled it right off their website. You can only use portable oxygen concentrators approved by the FAA. You must notify reservations at least 48 hours before your departure. Any special assistance will contact you. They will contact you. Requirements for traveling with approved. Before aboard, check-in at the gate so agent can test that you can operate the POC and respond to its alarm. Explain the phases of the flight when a POC is operable. There's a lot that you need to know. Okay, next slide. There's the list. Anybody read that? I can't even see it from here. But that's what I was trying to say. Every single item. G2, G3, G4, Antigen 1, Empacare, Oxalive, O2 Concepts, Respironics Everflow, Respironics Simply Go, Respironics Simply Mini, etc., etc. Sequel, they're all FAA approved. That's what you want to do is check on your airline to see what's approved, but they all should be on there. Next slide. This is just one of the examples. This is a Respironics Simply Go Mini. Didn't bring that today, but it's comparable to the Antigen G3. Next slide. This is the Antigen G3. Many of you have that. Our most reliable system right now. By the way, for those that are going to ask, there is an Antigen G5 that was launched. It goes to a Pulse 6, 13-hour battery life. Unfortunately, doesn't work. We don't carry it. We won't carry it till it does. I was with Antigen on Tuesday, and no. It's a very nice unit when it's going to work, but right now they're having problems. They pulled it. So you're going to see it advertised on TV, you're going to hear about it, but just be aware right now, like any new product that launches, has some issues. Just let it settle down. I'd say in about 6 months, it should be fine. Next slide. Okay, this is the LACU that I mentioned to you. This is on the airplane just to show you it's real. You can fly. Next slide. Here she is in just one of her trips on the boat. Next slide. Here she is in Rome. Next.
Wow.
Holland. Next. Greece. Next. London. Like I said, she's 16 countries in 18 months. Next. There she is again with her husband. Next. And there she is. Finally, she says, have fun, enjoy your travel. Don't let oxygen be the reason you can't travel. I have room for a few questions. Yes, ma'am.
How old is she?
How old is she?
She looks pretty young.
No. In her 50s. In her 50s.
Did you say she had a lung
No,
transplant?
one lung, single lung.
And that's why she needs oxygen?
Yes, yes.
What did she use for night?
She used, what did she use for nights? She used continuous. There's an Inogen home system. Didn't bring it with me, but it's about 18 pounds. And it fits well in a little roller board that you can roll on board. Many people invest in that and they just throw it in and they carry it with them and they hook it up when they get to their hotel. And they don't worry about the continuous tanks and they don't worry about it, so they invested in it. They're around $1,400 and for them it was the right thing to do. Yes?
Can you use the Philips Simply Go on continuous at night?
All right, the question is, can you use the Philips Simply Go, which I have here, goes to a continuous 2, 6 pulse. Can you use it at night? The answer is yes.
Yeah, if you're not using much.
I'm sorry?
Normally you use 1 or 2.
Yeah, 1 or 2. We were talking up here. There is a device, a
Right.
cannula, it's an oxidizer that will take you up to roughly 4. Yeah, so you can use it, and a lot of people do. It weighs 10 pounds, it's on a little cart, and it does quite well. Anything else? Any other questions? It's hot in here.
Yes, it is.
Yes, ma'am.
Any technology coming up so that concentrators go beyond 3 continuous flow? I
Question
know I'm
is,
dreaming.
are there any devices that are coming out that are portable that go to a 3 continuous in the future?
Past 3.
Past 3, I wish I knew. I don't know of anything today. Yes, sir.
A question regarding E-tanks.
Uh-huh.
How much heat can they stand in the back of the car, like in the desert or Arizona?
Boy, I hesitate because we don't handle
A lot.
tanks. I think you probably can
I've
handle
done it.
quite a bit, but I don't feel real comfortable carrying one in the back of the trunk any more than I do red wine. So, I treat it just like my wine. I keep it cool.
I went to Vegas and saw the Whitey tanks, and they stayed in the car, and it was 120 outside, so they were fine. I even took one out to the pool and said, I like the pool. It's fine.
Okay, there you go. She took hers to Las Vegas, right?
Yep.
And 120 degrees, and it was fine. So,
One of those things on the ambient at 100, 120, we used to do hot testing out in Death Valley. It would be 122 degrees, and we'd just gone in for lunch for 1 hour. We had all the instruments inside the car, and on the package tray of a black vehicle, after 1 hour heat soak, 200 degrees.
Right.
And a white car, 180 degrees.
wow.
So it gets very hot inside the car. That's why you don't leave a kid in a car closed.
Right.
It's way beyond.
So he was saying in his car, just leaving it outside for an hour, about 200 degrees, right? Inside, that's hot. Yes, ma'am.
A question about, you said take the battery out and you plug it in so you don't get overloaded.
Yes.
That's on the airplane only. Like I have a Simply Go Mini,
Uh-huh,
and I leave the battery in and charge it at home at the outlet
yes,
with the battery in it.
yes.
That's not
fine.
overload because that's a house,
No,
right?
no, so the question is, if you leave your battery in at home when you're plugging it in, absolutely. Cannot overcharge that battery. It's a lithium battery. It shuts off automatically when it's fully charged.
Okay, so at home it's okay.
At home, it's okay. The reason on an airplane, just remember, you're up in the air, and they're generating just so much power. And if they had 10 people with those oxygen concentrators all drawing at the same time, you know, I don't know what would happen, but they don't want to find out.
Right, thank you.
That's all. Yes.
My question is, when you charge the Inogen Ranger in the car, for
Okay.
instance,
All right,
or in the hotel room,
okay.
are you supposed to take the battery out then too?
No. Misunderstand.
No.
The battery stays in that device at all times unless you're on an airplane and they allow you the opportunity to use it. Otherwise, leave that battery in at all times. And if you have 2, there is a desktop charger, just so you know, available. So you can charge one while you're using one. A lot of times, the lady I showed you, she had 2 batteries, 2 large, 16 hours. And she'd leave one in the hotel being charged while she was out and about touring, came back, pulled a new one out, put it on, and just went out in the evening. So, you know, there are a lot of ways to do it.
Okay, thanks.
I want to impress, I've traveled with my engine several times, and I want to impress that you have to check every airline, because like you said, they're all different, and all have different requirements. And extra batteries, because when I flew to Paris, and the wheelchair person didn't come to get me, and I waited an hour and a half for that wheelchair, they gave me oxygen on the plane. That was an emergency.
Yeah, so that's why FAA requirements 1.5 times. Her point was, her batteries basically went out, as I understood it, so she had no device to utilize. The airline provided oxygen, but that's why they say 1.5 times at a minimum that you need to take with you on that airline. You can't count on, their assumption is that that plane has no electricity, you're sitting on a tarmac, and that's, you need that oxygen. So, yes ma'am.
Can I assume if you go out of the country that you need to get adapters for the plugs and electricity over there?
Okay, good question. That's a real good question. So do I need adapters when I go overseas, like to Europe, that uses a 200 and 220? And the answer is yes. The unit itself, the power supply will adapt, but you usually need a little connector to that device to plug it in, just like your computers. They'll run, but you have to have that converter, you know, the 4-prong converter, that's all. And they sell those everywhere, so it's real simple to get those. Okay, I think, no, you can't have it. All right, well, thank you for allowing us to come. Thank you.
Let's give Mike a nice round of applause. If you have additional individual questions, he's going to be here a few minutes and come up and take a look at the equipment he has and brochures and all sorts of cool stuff. They're a great company. They're a great seller of a wide variety of portable oxygen machines.